Ron Carter on bass, and Sir Roland Hanna on piano lead off on Blues in the Closet from Oscar Pettiford's original composition of 1953. This is from Carter's 2002 album, Stardust. This is Leid Stories. I'm Utrice Leid, and we're picking up from where we left off yesterday, today being the first of 2 days of so-called debates among the Democratic candidates vying for president in 2020. What is going on with me? Well, we started the conversation yesterday, and it proved one thing, and that is when you stop and take stock and your mind is settled and focused, you're actually in the midst of your brilliance. They can't fool you. We got some really incredible insights yesterday. And what was really incredible about it was nobody was prepared for the question, really. It wasn't like they knew it was coming. It was an extemporaneous response to an extemporaneous question. And yet the clarity was so impressive. And that's where we ought to train ourselves to be, so that we don't get flustered. We don't get sidetracked. We don't get distracted by all the bells and whistles that they tend to put in when election time comes around. And so we deviate from the central issues. Because when you stick to the central issues, that's when you find the answers sorely lacking. So tonight is the first of 2 nights in Miami that the Democrats will be presenting themselves to the United States voter so that they can appreciate where they're coming from and what matters to them as candidates. Now, this is supposed to be a debate. They've knocked it down to 2 panels of 10. There were 24 candidates who hitherto were said to be qualified to participate in the debates. But I gather it was going to be a little bit expensive and inconvenient to actually build a set that would accommodate these candidates as per the Democratic Party's rules. So what they decided was that they would knock off 4. 4 people got knocked off. So that left 20 candidates, and lo and behold, they could find room for 20. They could build a set for 20. Okay. Now, between you and me, I ask you a question, this basic question. How much time, with 20 candidates participating in these so-called debates, how much time does any candidate have to fully pursue a point or to debate against an opponent? What is this? Mac debate. A Mac debate. This is crazy. Why are they doing it? Probably because they went out and got money to build this glorious set. And they have some money to play with, so they build a set. It's all about the perception of the party, the visual statement that the party is making. It has nothing really to do with the candidates and their interaction with each other. The Democratic Party has to impress. It has to convey a sense of prosperity. It has to convey, an attractiveness. So the set has to say that. And then, the lighting, with the lighting and all that other stuff you throw in, it looks like a happening event. It looks real. Except as a viewer, you're not going to get very much out of this. I don't think. You're not going to have time to hear what the people have to say, the candidates have to say. They're not going to be able to debate. So it's more like an interview process with all of them standing up behind podiums. In other words, we are getting the message that a lot of other things matter more than the substantive issue of debating. That's not important. And don't kid yourself into thinking that that's what you're going to see tonight and tomorrow. We got some very insightful reaction yesterday. And essentially, it was about whether the people were being conned, whether this was a con job. Have certain decisions already been made? And the Democratic Party, in order to, put up a shield in front of itself, because there's so many questions you could ask here. It is going through this process simply to have a reasonably legitimate defense, that it did stage a debate and they will turn the negatives into positives. We had so many candidates. The field was so enthusiastic, and we couldn't possibly just outright rule a whole bunch of people out. We are Democrats, after all. We certainly didn't have the kind of time to devote, because that would cost money. And as you know, the Democrats keep chasing money. They tell us how broke they are. In fact, when we had a changeover and we had the appointment of new blood, new blood came in and they were going to do all these things, the Democratic Party was practically bankrupt. We have not ever heard of an accounting as to why the Democratic Party went almost bankrupt. And even now, it's still about chasing money. They have a lot of expenses. They owe a lot of people a lot of money. And the party has to utilize every avenue possible to make up for the shortfall. And a debate is one of the ways they make up for it. You solicit donors and you tell them all the great things that are in store and the urgency to move against a president that the Democrats have had so much trouble with and continue to have trouble with, and that the people are looking to the party to do something, and we need your support more than ever. So even in a state of distress, the Democratic Party leaves room, a lot of room, to raise money. Now, you may think when they say debate, well, that's what it is. People are debating. It's a political issue, and people are debating the political issues of the day. But bear in mind, in everything the Democratic Party does, especially of this nature, a major public event, it's got to find a way to make money because, well, there are expenses associated with national campaigns. And they have to find money somewhere. So they would jazz things up. The set will be very sexy, lots of red, white, and blue, a lot of music, a lot of things to amplify what is supposed to be a basic debate. It is now an event. It's an event. And we're being hustled. We have to watch, because they're measuring that too. We have to watch to legitimize the popularity of the party, even though the party is telling us up front and proving it. Your expectations aren't to be so high. Understand that we're operating with serious constraints. So we'll do our best to simulate a debate, but it's really not going to be a debate. We will insist that it is. We will tell you that this is a debate, but it is not a debate, and it won't be a debate, because a lot is riding on the mere transmission of this event to authenticate the Democratic Party's commitment to the people and their right to have some credible information about what the candidates and the party are doing in this highly energetic year prior to the next presidential election. Okay. So, using your common sense, which was what was so extraordinary about yesterday's offerings that we got from callers, just your common sense is required. You don't have to be a New York Times bureau chief for the past 30 years to make sense of something so painfully obvious. Just your common sense, your observation, your keen observation of how things are moving. We want to know from you, with tonight being the first of the two rounds of debates, what is happening here? What is the Democratic Party doing? And what's the point of it? What are you expecting? And seeing how things are going, do you expect to get anything out of this that would help you make a sensible decision about your political choices in this presidential election? Let's start with Tom from Connecticut. Hello, Tom.
I don't want to
Hello,
cloud.
Tom?
Yes? You there?
Okay, you're on the air. Yes.
Yes. I said it's a sunny day and I don't want to cloud the afternoon with anticipation of nothing.
Go ahead. You're entitled.
I guess it could go under the all-encompassing phrase, it's a big tent. Right? So they want to make a big tent. I'd like to do a word search of every utterance that comes out of these people's mouths to see who would say a different word, because it's all going to be a rehashing of the same things amongst themselves. how can anyone within the context of what's going to be presented come forth with anything galvanizing to separate themselves amongst this kind of herd? It's going to be curious, I think. I think I'll just use it for curiosity. I don't think anything could come of it except the fact that it's, I guess, the biggest event that's ever occurred, right, under these premises. So to that point, I guess it is historic to some extent. But sound and fury signifying nothing, I guess.
But do you see any point? I mean, let's say, well, it's a party and there are people who want to run under its banner, and the party has rules for qualifying to rent, if you will, the all the things associated with the party, its name, its history, and so forth. And so they qualify. Now, what does the party do? Except, well, we gotta do this. Let's figure out the best way to get it done, and then we just call it a debate.
Well, I think really that given the debacle that occurred with the undermining of Bernie Sanders and Hillary just swooping in and undermining any of his stuff and taking all the superdelegates and taking over the Democratic National Committee basically by giving them funding because they were on their butt, as I recall. I think this is an effort to maybe, put forth the idea that anyone in the United States can be president. So, put a whole bunch of people out there to show that, look at the possibilities we offer to everyone. Full well knowing there's only barely a handful, 2 or 3, that will ultimately come out of this as being the candidate unless something dramatic happens. But, people tend to be selected prior to anyway. So it's just giving lip service to these glittering phrases that have floated around in the country for a long time. And once again, I think trying to overcome the black eye that was given to the party with the Bernie debacle, and they have no significant message to put forth. There's no coherence that I'm aware of. It's all pandering to how much things they want to give away and how much taxes they're going to charge you to do that.
Well, their message seems to be, we don't like Trump.
Well, that's it. Yes, the overriding message, absolutely.
We don't like Trump, and that should suffice.
Yeah. The banner to be waved proudly.
We hate Trump.
Yes.
And after all this time, and the time to prepare, the time to really stretch out, because the party's in trouble. It's in trouble because it is losing support in areas where it had historically enjoyed strong
yes,
support.
Absolutely. Yep.
And now, on top of that, you have a president, the most unusual president we've had in recent years, and he's doing just fine. He is doing great. His constituency is loyal. They coming out for him. They're voting for him, and they love him. With his lying self,
he had the ability, because of his unique nature, to separate himself from what was termed the clown show back then of the Republican debates, right? Because he kind of sucked all the oxygen out of the room with his antics. I don't think anyone on the stage tonight will have that gravitas, for lack of a better word, to rise above, basically, and show themselves to be something totally different than same old, except under the rubric that we all hate Trump, obviously. Who hates Trump more? That might be how they would try and one-up each other. I hate him so much that this is what I'm going to do.
Oh, my goodness. This is what we've come to.
Yeah,
This is a great
sadly.
exercise in democracy. Thank you, Tom, for getting us
Take a
started
good day.
today. Ed from Queens, you're on the air.
Hello, Yatrice. How you doing?
Okay, how about you?
I've seen better days. Definitely seen better days. Pertaining to what you're talking about what's happening tonight. It's a political dog and pony show. I mean, you're dealing with two breast of anything political parties. You've got a clown in charge, and you've got a bunch of court jesters running around. I mean, what discernible topic could you even flesh out on a stage of 10 people? How long is each one going to speak? A debate has certain rules and parameters. How can you even abide by them in this part? It's just going to be a soundbite festival with people who are really just saying anything. And the only common stick that they have is that we don't like Trump. I mean, I don't really care about Trump in retrospect. This country is about to go down the toilet. We have no manufacturing. Insurance rates are at their lowest level. They're devaluing the dollar. And if you look at Central America and how the IMF has treated Central America, that's what the IMF recommended Central American countries do: devalue your dollar so you can increase manufacturing in your country. But it doesn't work. So I mean, there are real issues that need to be dealt with. We got poison lead water in Jersey. We still got Flint, Michigan. Reparations, all these serious issues. And this party is a bunch of clowns. And until they figure out how to get out of their way, like you always say, we got to concentrate on survival. In 2030, 2050, who knows what this country is going to be, if it's going to be a country at all.
Do you sense? I always do this because people think that I'm the queen of doom, but do you sense that there is something at work here that we're not seeing, that has to do with a predicted outcome to these debates?
Well, I don't see what outcome you can have. I mean, first of all, this doesn't even qualify the debate, in my opinion. I mean, the debate, you raise topics, you have rebuttals, you have time to flesh out a topic and to get into it. I mean, a cognitive debate could be possibly between two people who are well versed in the subjects that they're trying to pontificate about. But you got 10 people. I mean, 10 politicians. For what? I'm trying to whoever's going to look the best, whoever says the most witty thing, whoever shows the most gravitas, is garbage.
Well, what I was suggesting was that there is already a consensus within a group that we don't see or hear about who the eventual nominee ought to be or will be. They can't just do that off the bat. They have to go through a process to give us the impression that, people are competing for our attention and support. But really, there is a group that has already decided who's going to be the nominee.
Yeah, well, there's a predetermined the process of determining who's going to be a nominee has already been done a long time ago, and this is just going.
What do you think it is?
Well, Biden, unfortunately.
Oh.
I think it's Biden. I think they're going to turn. I think they're going to turn on Bernie unless some things change. But those are the two predominant people, and I honestly believe that they're considering Biden because the one thing that the Democratic Party is missing, one thing that these pundits is missing, this guy, he's a con man. He's a hustler. And this country is bankrupt. And his whole history has been dealing with organizations and businesses that are on the verge of collapse. He loses them for what he can get, and he moves on. That's why I'm saying this guy is in a prime position to be the head of a bankrupt corporation, i.e. the United States of America. And that's why he's doing so good. He's a good con man. He's a good hustler. And they're sleeping on this guy because the Democratic Party has no real standard bearing. They have no real moral imperatives. They have no real economic imperatives. It's just we don't like Trump. And you got to get beyond that. You got to get beyond that to deal with the real problems that the people in this country is facing. You know, I just don't see. I don't see any good coming of this, and a possibility that this fool could be in office again.
Will there be a breakthrough candidate, do you think? Somebody who is not expected to garner much support, but based on even this bizarre exercise tonight that will be called a debate, manages to get the attention of many, many Democratic voters?
I don't see anyone, as far as my opinion, I don't see anyone that's really carrying a persuasive message, a message that with some substance. I don't see anyone coming out of that pack. I mean, it's just the same old laissez-faire, mundane people running the same old political garbage that's got us into this economic, social, or political situation that we've always been in. It's always the lesser of two evils, or the evil of two lessers.
Well, Ed, we'll see how your analysis conforms to what we see tonight. And I think many of the things that you've said are right on point. Right on point.
Well,
thanks for.
We can always hope. Thank you.
You could always hope. Willie from Brooklyn, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, beloved.
Hello, Willie.
How are we doing, beloved?
I'm hanging in.
Okay, love your program, but I'm just not listening to you anymore. Listen. Why are you laughing at me? You laughing at me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Listen, first of all, as far as this thing is concerned, number one, it's one party. It's the same party. So anybody that think they're different parties is disillusion. Now, number
Democrats
two,
and the Republicans are one and the same party, as you say.
altruism, the what's the other party? This same thing. The what do you call the other part? That's how much I remember about them. So I think what they're doing is a test. You see, I have no problem with the Democratic or the Republican Party because this is just a test to see the problem I have is those that are concerned with dumbing the American people down, because this is just a test to see how down they've made the American people. I wouldn't waste my time watching this. As a matter of fact, I don't have a television, and if I did, I wouldn't waste my time watching this dog and pony, like you always say, dog and pony show. That's all this is, and to see, to measure how much they've dumbed down the American people. That's all this is. Okay?
So what do you think, then, would be the outcome? Even before the debates are staged, what do you think will be the outcome? Or is intended to be the outcome?
Trees, I have no interest in it. I wouldn't waste my time.
You have no interest?
I wouldn't waste my time with it, because it would be an insult to my intelligence and my decency. That's the way I see it. Because we already know. We should have, by now, after listening to you for so many years, and so many of the Garnall and these people, we should know by now. So I'm not that, ignorant and stupid. Simple. I would not waste my time with it. It's not worth my time. All right?
But there will be an election nonetheless. And therefore, if I were to ask you to predict even a little further what you are likely to do, could you share that with us?
Well, you know who I'm going to vote for. Somebody I respect. somebody of honor and decency. And you already know, I've already made that very, very clear. But or if Gary knows, if we had done what we're supposed to do, build the station into where we had 300 million people, 200 million people listening to this, then I know he doesn't not want to do this. But if he was running, then I would vote for him. But outside of that, it's a waste of time.
Wow. I'm trying to figure out, let's say we take your point of view and we multiply it by a couple of million people. Where would it put us politically?
But at least, okay, let's say we had somebody like Gary just being on the ballot and putting his point of view out there. Then they would be forced to deal with true issues that affect people and help people and benefit the masses of people. But outside of this, it's just, I see no sense in it.
Well, I have always been very political. And it surprises even me about myself that in recent years, I'd say the least 20 years, I still remain politically aware, but distant from the whole thing, because it does, I'm going to borrow a word of yours, it's like, it's a farce.
Yes. I totally
we have
agree
no real way, which is why it is important, I think, that we find another way. And that other way should be building, reclaiming our communities.
Exactly.
And running them the way we would like to see them run. That we have the resources to provide basic services and so forth, but it requires involvement. We're not seeing even that. We're not seeing involvement at that level that would allow people to feel comfortable with the idea that while they can clearly see the yawning gaps in any political party today, for the most part, they also see the alternative and are working toward that. That is the big dream, the big hope, that despite what we are seeing, we also are involved directly in building something else. Thanks, Willie. Thanks for calling in today.
Thank you.
David from Brooklyn, you're on the air.
Yes, good afternoon. I just got in. I didn't hear everyone speak. But in terms of this, the so-called debate this evening, I have some views towards this whole process. And my view is that the ruling class is this one-party state that we live in, and I think that's been mentioned before. It's a one-party state controlled by the Republicans and the so-called Democrats. The ruling class who controls this one party, they decide who the viable candidates will be for both parties. And those people that they decide upon are people that will go along with the program, is to maintain an economy and a country that is functioning for the interests of those who rule. Now, it's necessary if you pretending that you have a real democracy, and I don't think this is a real democracy at all. It's to me a faux democracy. You want to pretend that you have a democracy. So part of this charade that's going on with these so-called quote-unquote debates, you have to have people attention put upon that, even though everyone who gets to the top of those two divisions of the same party has to be vetted by those people who rule, and that's what they do. And people have to understand you're not voting for president. You're voting for electors who elect the president, the electoral college. They decide. They can decide anything they want. So, but they have people pretty well fooled into thinking that they're really deciding upon who leads, and that is not the case. Whoever it is that leads has to be in the service of those people who rule, and that's the ruling class, the heads of corporations, the various important divisions that have to do with finance and real estate and, insurance and manufacturing. And all of those people, those are the people that run this place, not the little people who go out and vote for one of the two that they allowed to be at the head of the rival parties, the so-called Democrats and Republicans. So, people have to understand what's going on. So, as I see it, the ruling class is going to support those people that they've vetted that will serve their interests best. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Biden, of his ilk gets in there, because he is going to serve their interests, and he's been tested, and just like Obama was tested and Bush and whatnot, they all serve the interests of those who rule. So
now I'm going to ask you, David, to put on your predictor's cap for a minute, and from what you're seeing, the way it's beginning to express itself, and the rituals being followed and so forth to achieve the ends that you've just defined, who should we keep an eye on as the preferred candidates of the ruling elite?
I would say, if I was in that, I'm going to put the hat on of the ruling elite for a second, I'd be more comfortable with someone who's true and tested, like Biden. He's the only one that I would put at the top of the list, who could be dependent upon to go along with the program that the real government really wants. Those are the ruling class people who control the country. So, he's a tested person, and I'm sure he is well vetted, and, that's the kind of person they would put up there to maintain this charade of a democracy. United States is not Switzerland or some of the social democratic countries of Western Europe. So the idea that you have a democracy here, and the country was never formed as a democracy, as Dr. Horn has shown us, that this was formed as a slave republic originally, and the Constitution is designed so that the ruling class maintains good control. So I think everybody should keep that in mind, and don't get too excited about these little so-called debates and whatnot. Don't forget, in a debate, you can, before they decide to put their person in the ruling class, you can have people get up there and talk about, you should have this and that and whatnot, and Medicare for all and this and that and the other, but that's just talk. That doesn't mean anything. And if by chance someone gets in there that promises those things. There are always ways to engineer so those things don't happen because they don't serve the interests of those who rule. So people need to get that through their head. This place is not set up to benefit the masses people live here. It's set up to benefit those who rule. And, I don't know what it takes to get people to get it. Even the fact that close to half the people are poor, and they still don't understand that things are run to benefit those who rule. And I think that's the thing that people have to get through their head.
If you say that Biden is the one that you believe has been quietly anointed to be the candidate of choice for the Democratic Party, where does that put the two other septuagenarians, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren?
Well, when push comes to shove, if this happens, as I think it will, they will probably just fall into line. And they're not going to switch over to Mr. Trump. Like Bernie fell into line with Mrs. Clinton, you see. So the point is that this is a massive game, and I think that, Sanders and Warren, they understand the game, and, it's a long shot. It's a long shot, and even if by chance they got in there, it's kind of hard to resist those who are behind the scenes, who rarely rule. So it's a very difficult thing because most of the people I see in the country, most of the people are uneducated with respect to how things really work. They don't understand the game, and it is a massive game, and it's played at the expense of the people, and most people don't get it. They're diverted. Their attention is diverted to all kinds of other things, anything you can divert them to, you do it, like Trump is doing with immigrants and black folks and, the Iranians. And these arguments are actually stupid. Even if the Iranians had a nuclear bomb, they'd have to think very hard before they tried to use it. That's not a problem at all. So, it's easy to get people's attention diverted from where their attention should be. It's just like the bullfight where the tension is put upon the cape rather than the matador who's going to kill it. So, and that's what we have with the people here. That's it. That's those of you who have seen a bullfight, I've seen a number of bullfights, and the game is the same. So they use a bull, but here we use all the ways of diverting people's attention from the real issues in this society. That's why we have a society that's full of poor folks and full of people suffering. As the rich get richer, the billionaires get richer, and it gets worse and worse every year because people don't understand the game that's being played upon them.
Thank you. I should also mention, incidentally, that you wrote a book some time ago, and the title of the book is Playing the Game. And so you're very familiar with the tactic and the necessity to read the situation as accurately as possible, because literally our lives depend on it. Thank you very much, David, for your call today. Chris from West Palm Beach, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, Utrice, and the audience. How's everybody doing? I hope well.
Thank you, and same to you. Hope you're doing okay.
Yeah, it's hot as ever down here. You get in the car, it's 102 degrees, but, it's still nice.
So, what do you predict will come of this so-called debate, the first of two, tonight?
Well, I call it a showcase, not a debate, because, they're not actually debating anything. That's one. Second, I would say it's just a way to promote anybody but Bernie Sanders. So they'll try to find a way to do two things, to tear him down and to hype up somebody else to take that second or third position behind Biden, because, obviously they want Biden to be the guy.
How do you expect that they would do that?
One, I feel they'll go at Bernie over his stance on reparations. That's for sure. That's the first thing, because you have to turn a certain number of black folk off you have to turn him off or make him not as attractive towards black voters, especially the younger ones. Because there seems to be a split. It seems to be amongst black Democratic voters. If you're of a certain age, you like Biden because of his ties to Obama. And if you're, on the younger side of things, probably under 40, you're probably a little more open to hearing what Bernie Sanders has to offer.
But do you get a sense that the party, as a party, has a position on this and other really important issues, an articulated position?
No, they're okay with how everything is going for the most part. The Democratic Party, as David said, I think, or the caller before, it's not one party. It's not two.
It's one party with two wings to it.
Yeah, it's a uniparty, and they largely agree on most of the larger issues they agree on, and they have their silly little debates about, abortion or immigration, et cetera, et cetera. But they're all fine, but most of them are fine with the status quo of everything.
Why aren't we hearing, I would even at this point welcome, even if disorganized, some kind of a public debate, if you will, with the progressives and other parties that at least will garner some kind of exposure and people become aware that they exist and that they have a particular vision that differs from the uniparty, the Democrats and Republicans. What do you think explains the inability or the lack of interest, it seems, in these parties doing just that?
Because the people who operate, live, work within this system, they're all pretty good. They get, they receive a lot of benefits, a lot of perks from maintaining the status quo. You get your nice vacations, you get your dinners, you get your lunches, you get campaign contributions. So, they're totally benefiting from the system the way it is. To challenge to do what you say, which I agree with, by the way, to do that would mean a lot of people wouldn't benefit as much as they currently do. And, God forbid you go from making $10 million a year to like $8 million a year. That's unacceptable.
What is your prediction? We had David from Brooklyn predict, and others, we had some others predict, that for the Democrats, the real goal is to sell Biden.
Yes.
Biden is the guy. You agree with that?
100%. That's what they're trying to do. Because again, if you look at all the energy, the crowds, and all these other items, all these other predictors or metrics, Bernie Sanders has the most energy, the better ideas. He's not an ideal candidate. He's not perfect, obviously. We've discussed him before. I don't think he should be running as a Democrat, but that's another thing. But yes, they want to force Biden on us because I think, honestly, the Democrats want Trump to get another term. As a party, I think they want him to get another term because they don't have to do anything. They won't be forced to deal with legalization of drugs, abolishing the prison system, actually doing something on immigration, pulling back the military spending, all of these things that really need major, not just reform, actually they need to be destroyed, but, they're just trying to make sure no meaningful change that's beneficial to the larger population takes place. So Joe Biden is the guy. And, again, they're playing on the fact that he's tied to Obama, and a lot of people in the Democratic Party are still very much in love with the Obamas.
I'm recovering from the startling statement that you made that you think that the party's interest in Biden is so that Donald Trump has another term?
Yes, agreed.
Okay, you got to walk me through that real slowly.
Oh, no, I just think that when you're in power, you actually have to do things. And obviously there's a lot of Democratic voters who do want to see some kind of change. Maybe if it's not as radical as the ones I want to see, but some of them do want to see some legitimate change in a different direction. So if you do that, that means you have to make certain changes that won't necessarily benefit you. It won't maintain your benefits in the way that you have them. So it's easier to say, oh, Trump won, let's raise a lot of money, he's dirty, he's this, but yet they support him on all the ways that matter. He bombed Syria and bombed Afghanistan. Yeah, Democrats and their media people, oh, he's really president now. He's truly our president today. He just dropped the mother of all bombs in Afghanistan. So it's a way for them not to do anything and to also keep complaining and to pretend as if they really want to do something. So it buys them 4 more years of fundraising.
I see your point now. I see it. What do you expect would be, I should say, a very critical outcome tonight? What do you expect it to be?
I don't expect, as far as tonight's debate, as far as the showcase goes, I don't expect much of anything. I mean, they never really ask crucial questions or important questions. They never ask these candidates. How can I say it? Yeah, long story short, I don't expect anything. I expect more middle of the road type of stuff. The political nonsense that we see on the cable channels, it'll be everything based around that,
Who do you see going into this crazy situation tonight? Who do you see as the underdog?
I think as far as 2 people, obviously I mentioned Bernie, but Tulsi Gabbard is the other one. She only in that she questions the narrative surrounding foreign policy, Syria, Iran, North Korea, Israel, Saudi Arabia, all of these things that we're not really supposed to touch or talk about too critically. So she's the one that they will probably try to not ask her. I don't know if she goes tonight or tomorrow, but I would say she's the one that they will probably don't want her to get speaking on that because, she does make a lot of sense when it comes to that.
Well, thank you very much, Chris, for your very serious analysis today. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. You put a couple of things out there that should cause us to think. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of our program today. I really appreciate the fact that when you offer an opinion, you offer it from the point of view of your own logic, your own sense of history, and with a view toward the broader community. What is it that we ought to be thinking? There was a lot to work with here today, and I thank you all for offering it. We'll see each other tomorrow, same time, 1 o'clock, and we'll talk some more, because tomorrow is batch 2 of the great debaters. All right, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.